What if I told you that a simple change in your diet could help you stop waking up every night to rush to the bathroom and bring back the control that aging seems to have taken from you? Would you want to know what it is? I'm not talking about an expensive therapy, and I'm definitely not talking about a trendy new drug. What I'm about to share is a truth that has been hidden in plain sight for far too long. There are certain everyday foods, yet familiar, trusted foods that are quietly disrupting your hormones, triggering chronic inflammation, and steadily enlarging your prostate as the years go by. Maybe you've felt like you're aging faster than normal, a creeping sense that you're losing your edge. But here's the reality: most of those changes aren't just about age, they're about what you're feeding your body every single day. Foods that no one ever warned you about. That is a physician who specialized in men's health for over 3 decades. I've helped thousands of men reclaim their vitality and peace of mind without surgery, without becoming dependent on pills. And what they changed wasn't their fate, it was their awareness. You see, the prostate, a small gland with a big role in a man's well-being, is deeply sensitive to your lifestyle, especially your diet. When inflammation simmers beneath the surface and male hormones are disrupted by industrial food ingredients, it doesn't just affect your physiology, it weighs on your mind, your sleep, your confidence, your entire sense of self. But here's the good news: you can reverse that, and you don't need to wait for a full-blown symptom to act. Starting today, you can begin removing the silent saboteurs from your meals and replace them with choices that gently shrink your prostate and restore your balance naturally. In this video, I'm going to reveal the exact foods that may be harming your prostate right now, foods sitting in your kitchen that most men never question. I'll break down the science of how these common items fuel inflammation and hormonal disruption, leading to an enlarged prostate, urinary problems, and long-term damage. But more importantly, I'll guide you through simple, actionable steps to help your body begin the healing process without fear, without shame, and without waiting for the next symptom to show up. If you're a man who wants to stop planning your life around the nearest bathroom, if you're tired of waking up feeling drained, disconnected, and not quite like yourself, this video was made for you. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. Each week, I share clear science-backed strategies to help men stay strong, sharp, and fully in control physically and emotionally at any age. Ready? Then let's begin with the truth that most doctors won't tell you, but that just might change the way you feel in your body every single day. So let me ask you something: what if the warm, crispy bacon on your plate each morning isn't just a comfort food, but a quiet accomplice in the slow weakening of your body's balance? And what if the lunch meat you stack between 2 slices of bread is playing a subtle role in why you're waking up at 2 a.m. again and again? I've seen it too many times to count. Good men, fathers, husbands, grandfathers, walk into my clinic confused and frustrated. They don't feel bad, per se, but they don't feel quite right either. They chalk it up to aging, never suspecting that their lifelong habits, things as simple as bacon for breakfast or a sausage at a weekend barbecue, could be part of the reason why they feel increasingly disconnected from their own body. Let me be clear, I'm not here to attack your memories or your routines. I'm here to tell you the truth no one ever warned you about. These familiar, processed meats, bacon, sausages, hot dogs, deli slices have become so embedded in our daily lives that we no longer question them. But inside the body of a man over 60, they behave like something else entirely. Not food, not fuel, but inflammation triggers. These meats are preserved using nitrates and nitrites, chemicals that are meant to make them look fresh, taste savory, and last longer. But once they enter your digestive system, especially in an aging body with slower detox pathways, they can form compounds linked to cancer and hormonal disruption. That's not fear-mongering, that's chemistry. And guess which organ is especially vulnerable to these changes? The prostate. But the story doesn't end there. Processed meats are notoriously high in sodium, far beyond what the body needs. And while most people think of salt as a heart issue, very few realize how closely it affects the prostate. Excess salt means water retention, which places pressure on the kidneys, the bladder, and yes, your prostate gland. It's not uncommon for men with high processed meat intake to report frequent nighttime urination, weak urinary stream, or that ever-present feeling that they just can't quite empty, and they blame their age, when in reality, their food may be working against them meal after meal, day after day. Now layer on the heavy saturated fats and trans fats that dominate these meats. These fats alter hormone metabolism, increasing bad cholesterol and disturbing the delicate balance between testosterone and DHT, dihydrotestosterone for men. This is critical. Elevated DHT is one of the leading factors behind prostate enlargement. It tells the cells in your prostate to multiply, slowly, silently, until one day you realize your body no longer feels like it used to. You didn't just get older, something changed inside. I've had patients come to me desperate, tired of the nighttime trips, the low energy, the frustration, and here's what I've seen time and again. When they remove processed meats from their diet, not reduce, but remove, the changes are real, not always overnight, but steadily. Their urgency eases, their sleep deepens, and most importantly, their hope returns. That hope is powerful. It can transform not just your prostate but your mindset, your energy, your confidence. So if you're asking me, doctor, should I stop eating bacon? I'll say this: if you care about your prostate, your rest, and your independence, then yes, removing processed meat is not a trendy recommendation. It's a medical warning, and while it may feel uncomfortable to give up something familiar, ask yourself what's more comforting than waking up fully rested, not rushing to the bathroom, and feeling in control again. Here's the good news. You don't have to sacrifice flavor or tradition. You can still enjoy a satisfying breakfast or a hearty lunch. Choose whole, unprocessed proteins, fresh poultry, pasture-raised eggs, wild-caught fish, or even clean plant-based options. Real food. Food your body recognizes. Food that heals, rather than harms. And now that we've addressed the obvious threat, let me ask you this. What if the next food we discuss isn't something processed, but something that's actually been marketed as healthy for decades? A food many older men consume daily, believing it's helping their digestion or their bones, when in reality it may be quietly fueling inflammation inside their prostate. We'll talk about that next. But first, if this insight has made you pause, reflect, or reconsider your habits even just a little, I invite you to comment one below. Let me know you're still with me, and that you're ready to reclaim ownership of your health, one step at a time. Now let's move on to the next hidden trigger that could be sabotaging your prostate without you even knowing it. Let me ask you something that might challenge what you've believed your entire life. Could the same milk you poured into your cereal as a kid, the same yogurt you've relied on for digestion, and the same cheese you've enjoyed at every family gathering be quietly working against your body now that you're over 60? It's a hard truth. And I know, because I grew up with the same message you did. Milk builds strong bones. Cheese is good for you. Yogurt supports your gut. These ideas were not just common, they were foundational. For generations, men have seen dairy as a symbol of strength, vitality, and health. But here's what decades of medical experience and thousands of prostate cases have taught me. Too much dairy doesn't protect the prostate, it provokes it. I've seen men cling to dairy out of habit, out of trust, even out of comfort. But the science is clear, and in men over 60, it becomes even more critical. Dairy products naturally contain IGF-1, a hormone-like growth factor, designed to stimulate development in calves. In small amounts it may not be an issue. But in older men, high levels of IGF-1 from frequent dairy intake can overstimulate prostate cell growth. Layer by layer, silently, the prostate begins to swell. It doesn't scream, it doesn't hurt, but it speaks in weak streams, restless nights, and that constant nagging pressure beneath your bladder. But that's only part of the story. What many don't realize is that most commercial dairy today comes from cows kept in prolonged pregnancy. That means their milk carries elevated levels of estrogen and progesterone, female hormones that, when consumed regularly by men, can disrupt your own natural hormone production. Over time, this throws off the delicate balance between testosterone and estrogen, something your prostate relies on for stability. And when that balance shifts, the result isn't just physical discomfort, it's emotional too. Low energy, poor sleep, irritability, even a subtle sense that you're not quite yourself anymore. I've had countless men sit across from me, confused by rising PSA levels, struggling with interrupted sleep, or facing invasive tests. They're often shocked when I ask about their diet and even more surprised when I point to dairy. But then we make changes. We reduce the milk, swap heavy cheeses for lighter, plant-based options, trade conventional yogurt for coconut or almond alternatives. And within weeks, the changes speak louder than any lab report. They tell me they're sleeping through the night for the first time in years, that they feel lighter, clearer, more in control. Now let me be clear, dairy isn't inherently evil, but if you're consuming it daily, in large quantities, and you're past the age of 60, you must ask yourself a hard question. Is that extra glass of milk worth another night of broken sleep? Is that cheddar cube really worth the tension you feel every time you try to empty your bladder? Because the evidence is no longer vague, it's direct. Excess dairy is a driver of prostate growth. And if you care about preserving your independence, your peace of mind, your ability to move through life without discomfort, this is the moment to rethink what you're putting in your body. Some men push back and ask, "But doc, what about calcium? Don't I need it?" And I tell them, absolutely, but you don't need milk to get it. Dark leafy greens, almonds, fortified plant milks, all rich sources of calcium that don't come with the hormonal baggage dairy does. So here's my challenge to you. Try going dairy-free for just 1 week. 7 days. Switch to oat or almond milk. Try non-dairy yogurt. Use hummus or avocado in place of cheese. Pay attention to your body, your sleep, your bathroom habits, your sense of ease. And if you do, I think you'll be surprised, maybe even relieved by how quickly your body begins to thank you. Now, if you thought dairy was a surprise, just wait until you hear what's coming next. It's something even more widespread, even more socially accepted, and yet it may have been silently sabotaging your blood flow and inflaming your prostate for years without you realizing it. We'll talk about that next. 3. Let me ask you something personal. Has comfort food ever comforted you only to betray you later? We all have that dish, the sizzling fried chicken that reminds you of home, the steak grilled to perfection at a backyard cookout, or the crisp, golden fries that bring back Sunday football and laughter at the table. For many men, these aren't just meals, they're memories, and I understand that. I really do. But there comes a moment in every man's life when we must look beyond nostalgia and ask ourselves honestly, is this food still serving me, or is it silently working against me? When it comes to saturated fat and deep-fried foods, the answer is increasingly clear, and for the aging prostate, it's loud and urgent. These meals may bring short-term satisfaction, but they are fueling long-term inflammation and hormonal chaos. I've seen it repeatedly in my clinic, men in their 60s, 70s, and beyond struggling with prostate enlargement, elevated PSA levels, chronic inflammation, and nightly disruptions, never realizing that what they're eating every day is stoking the fire inside. Here's why. Saturated fats, found in fried foods, greasy burgers, fatty red meats, and most fast food, don't just sit in your stomach. They travel through your bloodstream, raising LDL cholesterol and clogging your arteries. But more importantly for your prostate, they interfere with hormonal signaling and trigger widespread inflammation. And if there's one thing the prostate responds poorly to, it's chronic inflammation. It leads to swelling, irritation, and over time, hypertrophy, a slow but steady expansion of this small, sensitive gland. And that's not all. These fats also stimulate increased production of dihydrotestosterone, or DHT, the very hormone most linked to prostate growth. The more saturated fat you consume, the more DHT your body generates. Slowly, silently, your prostate cells multiply. Maybe at first you're just waking once at night, then twice, then 3 times. Maybe you feel like you're not emptying completely, or the stream becomes slower, weaker. It doesn't happen all at once, but eventually, discomfort becomes your new normal. I remember Carl, one of my longtime patients, a retired postal worker in his late 60s. When he first came to me, he was exhausted. "Doc," he said, "I haven't slept through the night in over a year." His days revolved around restroom access. His meals were quick, fried, and familiar. We worked together to gently replace those harmful fats. Grilled salmon instead of deep-fried fish, olive oil instead of margarine, a handful of walnuts instead of potato chips. 6 weeks later, he was a different man. "I slept 6 hours straight," he told me, eyes lit up. "I don't even remember the last time that happened." The relief on his face said more than words ever could. That's why I urge you, from both a medical and personal perspective, to reconsider how often these foods land on your plate. Fried chicken, bacon cheeseburgers, greasy takeout. They're not just guilty pleasures, they're prostate irritants. They inflame, they elevate DHT, and they block your body's ability to circulate nutrients where they're needed most. This doesn't mean you can never enjoy food again. It means learning to enjoy it differently. Choose lean proteins like grilled turkey or chicken. Cook with olive oil instead of butter. Bake instead of deep fry. Use herbs and spices to create flavor instead of drowning dishes in fat. Your taste buds will adjust. Your prostate will thank you. And if you're still unsure, consider this. Once prostate tissue expands, it doesn't shrink easily. But when you eliminate what causes it to swell, you give your body a fighting chance to recover gradually, gently, and without long-term medication. Now you might be wondering, if fat is that dangerous, what about alcohol? Surely a glass of wine or a cold beer isn't a big deal, right? Well, what I'm about to share next might make you look at that nightly drink a little differently. It's a habit many men dismiss, but one that might be quietly reducing circulation and fueling inflammation in your prostate for years. Let's take a closer look. For let me ask you something that most people avoid. Is that nightly drink really helping you unwind? Or is it quietly working against your health, one sip at a time? Now I get it. Alcohol isn't just a beverage. For many men, especially past the age of 60, it's a ritual, a familiar glass of beer after a long day, a celebratory toast on the weekend, a quiet pour of whiskey in the comfort of your favorite chair. It brings a sense of ease, maybe even a sense of identity, and I respect that. But here's the truth that far too many overlook. If you've noticed that you're waking up more often at night, if your stream feels weaker, or there's a constant sense of pressure in your lower abdomen, it might be time to take a closer look at how alcohol is affecting your prostate. What many men don't realize is that frequent alcohol use, especially beer and hard liquor, can directly contribute to prostate enlargement. I've seen this pattern countless times in my clinic. A man comes in with classic symptoms: getting up several times during the night, feeling like his bladder never empties fully, difficulty starting or stopping his stream, and when we dig into his habits, there it is: quiet, consistent, and overlooked. 1, 2, sometimes 3 drinks a night. Not enough to raise concern, but enough to disrupt his health. So what exactly is happening? First, alcohol disrupts your hormones. It suppresses testosterone and raises estrogen levels over time, especially with regular use. That hormonal imbalance creates the perfect internal environment for your prostate to enlarge. Testosterone helps regulate prostate tissue. But when alcohol chips away at that balance, The gland begins to react, swelling subtly at first, then chronically. Second, alcohol irritates not just your liver but your bladder and prostate too. It inflames tissue and increases urinary urgency. You may have noticed this yourself, how even 1 or 2 drinks make you visit the bathroom more often. That's not coincidence. It's your urinary system going into overdrive to flush out what it sees as a toxin. Third, and this one's often underestimated, alcohol dehydrates. As we age, hydration becomes essential, not optional. But alcohol acts as a diuretic, pulling water from your system. The result, your urine becomes more concentrated, more acidic, and far more irritating to your urinary tract. That irritation leads to inflammation, swelling, and yes, more prostate enlargement over time. I remember George, a retired mechanic in his early 70s. Tough, independent, sharp as ever but exhausted. He told me he hadn't slept through the night in over a year. 5 bathroom trips each night, constant fatigue, frustration written across his face. His diet was decent, he walked every morning, but when we spoke, he casually mentioned his nightly 2-finger pour of whiskey. It had been part of his routine for decades. We agreed to try something simple, a few alcohol-free nights, more hydration, and a calming evening routine instead. Within weeks, his symptoms started easing. By the 1-month mark, he was sleeping through the night 3 or 4 times a week. His words stuck with me, "Doc, I finally feel like I'm back in control." And that's what this is really about, regaining control. Alcohol doesn't have to be your enemy, but it does need to be respected. If you're drinking regularly and facing signs of an inflamed or enlarged prostate, I encourage you, pause, cut back, replace that drink with calming herbal tea, sparkling water, or a relaxing habit like reading or gentle stretching. Your prostate deserves a break. Your body deserves that respect. You don't have to give up everything you enjoy, but you do have to start choosing what serves you, not what slowly sabotages you, because small decisions compound over time, and nowhere is that more true than when it comes to prostate health. And if you thought alcohol was surprising, what I'm about to share next might shock you even more. It's something most men consume daily, often multiple times without the slightest suspicion, but it disrupts hormones, drives inflammation, and quietly accelerates prostate growth. It hides in your morning routine, your snacks, and even in foods you thought were healthy. Let's take a closer look. Let me ask you something that most men never consider until it's already affecting their sleep, energy, and confidence. What if the sugar in your morning coffee, the white bread in your sandwich, or the soda you sip at lunch is quietly making your prostate swell? Sugar doesn't usually trigger alarm bells the way alcohol or red meat might. It's familiar, it's comforting, and it's everywhere. But as someone who has worked with thousands of men facing prostate issues, I can tell you this without hesitation. Refined sugar and simple carbs may be the most underestimated contributors to prostate inflammation in modern life. It's not just the sugar you sprinkle on your cereal, it's the kind hidden in your sauces, your so-called healthy granola bars, your white pasta, your dinner rolls. These foods create daily blood sugar spikes that feel harmless in the moment. But inside your body, something very different is happening. Each time your blood sugar surges, your body pumps out insulin to bring it down. But with repeated exposure, especially as we age, your cells stop responding properly. This condition, known as insulin resistance, is more than just a metabolic issue. It sets the stage for widespread inflammation. And your prostate, it reacts fiercely to that internal storm. Inflammation is one of the central forces behind benign prostatic hyperplasia, or BPH. It makes tissues swell. It narrows the urethral passage. It disrupts the natural rhythm of your bladder. That's why men with high sugar diets so often report the same set of symptoms: weak flow, urgency, hesitation, disrupted sleep, and a sense of never quite feeling empty. But that's not the only danger. Refined carbohydrates like pastries, white rice, and sweetened drinks also lead to fat accumulation, especially around the midsection. And belly fat isn't just storage, it's hormonally active. It ramps up estrogen and suppresses testosterone, creating exactly the imbalance that encourages your prostate to grow larger and more inflamed. I remember Dan, one of my long-term patients. He came in for a routine checkup, frustrated and drained. "Doc," he said, "I feel like I'm falling apart and I haven't even changed that much." His sleep was fragmented. He planned his errands around proximity to a bathroom. His energy was low, and his mood was slipping. When we reviewed his diet, it became obvious: sugary muffins for breakfast, white bread for lunch, pasta at dinner, and a couple of sodas during the day. Nothing extreme, but consistent. And that's where the problem was hiding. We made simple, sustainable changes: oats instead of sugary cereal, brown rice instead of white, more vegetables, more lean protein. And 2 months later, Dan returned and told me something I'll never forget. "Doc, I finally slept through the night. Not once, but the whole night. I don't remember the last time that happened." His energy came back, his clarity improved, and so did his hope. That's what I want for you. Not perfection, not some restrictive diet, but awareness and choice. Because every bite you take is either feeding inflammation or fighting it. And when you reduce your intake of refined sugar, you give your prostate a real chance to calm down, to stabilize, to stop growing out of balance. So if there's the thing I hope you take away from this, let it be this. Your daily sugar cravings, your sweet coffee, your white bread and pasta, your evening dessert, they may seem small, but the damage adds up, and you deserve to know what's silently working against your body. We've now covered 5 of the most common dietary culprits that inflame and enlarge the prostate, but knowledge alone doesn't change your health. What you do next is what matters. And in the next section, I'll walk you through the specific steps you can take starting today to begin healing. These are not complicated, they're not extreme, they're practical, powerful habits that can help you protect your prostate, reduce discomfort, and reclaim your energy and freedom. Naturally, let's get into it now. 6. Now that you've heard about the 5 most common foods silently fueling prostate enlargement, let's shift to the most important part of all. What can you start doing today? Because information without action is just noise, but information paired with action, that's how healing begins. And when it comes to your prostate, the sooner you begin, the more options you keep open, less medication, less discomfort, and more control. Here's the good news. You don't need to overhaul your entire life overnight. You don't need a perfect diet or a radical cleanse. What you do need is to begin intentionally, honestly, and with awareness. Start by taking an honest look at your kitchen, your daily habits, and your automatic choices. Not with guilt, not with judgment, but with curiosity and clarity. A strip of bacon, every scoop of ice cream, every sugary drink, every grab-and-go, fried lunch, it all adds up. And your body, especially your prostate, has been keeping score. Your first step is to begin reducing and ideally removing the 5 dietary triggers we've discussed. That means stepping away from processed meats like deli slices and hot dogs, easing back on dairy products, especially heavy cheeses and creamy yogurts, swapping out fried and greasy foods that clog blood flow and fan the flames of inflammation, rethinking your relationship with alcohol, especially if it's disrupting your sleep or fueling pelvic swelling, and yes, facing down refined sugar and simple carbs, even the ones hiding in your morning toast or post-dinner dessert. Does that sound like a lot? I understand. Change can feel overwhelming, especially when it's tangled up in years of habit, comfort, even emotional reward. But I've seen with my own eyes how small, steady changes can shift everything. I've watched men in their who thought they were too far gone begin sleeping through the night, urinating with ease, and rediscovering a sense of strength they hadn't felt in years, not because they chased perfection, but because they chose progress. So here's my challenge to you. Just start. One decision at a time. Skip the fried food today. Swap white toast for a bowl of warm oats. Replace that afternoon soda with water. Choose grilled chicken over cold cuts. Each of these small decisions sends a new message to your body and builds momentum faster than you think. Also, never underestimate the power of hydration. Most men over 60 are living in a state of mild chronic dehydration, and when your body's dry on the inside, your urine becomes more acidic, more concentrated, and much more irritating to your bladder and prostate. To drink water regularly throughout the day. Your urinary system depends on it. Move your body. Even a 20-minute walk each day boosts circulation, calms inflammation, and supports hormone function. You don't need an expensive gym membership. You just need consistency. And perhaps most important of all, keep your mindset strong. You're not broken. You're not powerless. The fact that you're still watching this, still learning, still reflecting, that makes you different. That makes you someone who's ready to take ownership of their health, not wait for another prescription or another sleepless night. What you remove from your diet today may be the reason you don't need a pill tomorrow, and that's worth everything. But we are not done yet. There's one more thing. I need to leave you with something that ties all of this together. A final message that will remind you why this journey matters, and what's still possible for your health, your future, and your sense of self. So before you click away, stay with me, because what I share next just might change the way you think about aging, vitality, and what your body can still do. If you've stayed with me this far, let me just say this. Thank you, not just for watching but for caring, for being open to challenge old habits, for being willing to ask uncomfortable questions, and brave enough to face honest answers, because everything we've talked about today isn't just about food, it's about freedom. The freedom to live without discomfort, to sleep without interruption, to move through your day without worry or urgency. It's about reclaiming ownership of your health, not by chasing perfection, but by making conscious, consistent choices. We've covered the 5 foods that quietly fuel prostate enlargement: processed meats, excessive dairy, fried and fatty meals, alcohol, and refined sugar. We've talked about how they affect your hormones, your inflammation, your sleep, and even your confidence. And more importantly, we explored what you can start doing right now to give your body a chance to heal: better food choices, steady hydration, gentle movement, and a belief that change is still possible. I've seen it time and again. When a man decides to change what goes into his body, everything starts to shift. The urgency fades, the sleep returns, the strength rebuilds, and little by little, so does the sense of self. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to eat like a monk. What you need is awareness, intention, and the quiet confidence that your body is far more resilient than you think. No matter your age, no matter your setbacks, healing begins the moment you stop feeding what harms and start nurturing what restores. So if this video spoke to you, I invite you to share your thoughts or your story in the comments. Your experience could inspire another man to take his first step. And if you haven't already, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Not out of obligation, but so you don't miss the next tool, insight, or encouragement that might help you keep going. We're building a community here, one of strength, awareness, and possibility. Your health isn't behind you, it's still ahead. Let's keep walking toward it together.